Hi, I'm Neil Beck. I was a doctor in Perth, Western Australia for 53 years. First of all working in hospitals, then for many years as a family doctor in the suburbs, and then for 5 years had my own addiction clinic in which I treated 5,000 addicts in 40,000 consultations. In retirement, I've learned so much from doing Google searches and from thinking and reading books and ChatGPT reports that I now spend many hours of the week trying to help people with mental health problems and addictions online. So why mental health and addictions? Because in my work I saw hundreds of thousands of people of all ages, education types, socioeconomic levels and so on, and I looked to see what helped them to have good lives and what made them have difficult or nasty lives. And I found there were 7 things that were important for having a good life, and the most important was mental health, being mentally healthy. The people who suffered most and had the worst lives had very poor mental health. The second thing was relationships. It mattered so much, the quality of people's relationships. If they had enough good relationships, they had a good life. If their relationships were bad, they had a terrible life. And the third thing was how high their endorphin chemistry was. Endorphins are endogenous morphines which we produce in our brain and our glands that help to relieve pain and help to relieve distress. So if the endorphins were high, they were happy and healthy and well, and if their endorphins were low, they were miserable. And that was also because endorphins manage the immune system, and having a strong immune system was the 4th important factor in having a good life. Our immune system is white cells and antibodies and chemicals in every part of our body that fight infections, allergies, inflammation, autoimmune diseases and cancers. And the 5th thing for having a good life was the habit of smiling. The smilers had so much happier lives than the people who never smiled. I came to the conclusion that one of the most important things for having a good life was to develop a habit of smiling as often as possible. We have about 25 chemicals in our brain that help us to feel good and to feel happy and to smile. There's the over 20 endorphins that I've just mentioned, and also dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin and noradrenaline. And those chemicals make us feel happy, but something we've learned more recently is that when we smile or laugh, our brain produces even more of those happy chemicals. So smiling, often having the habit of smiling, is very helpful in boosting the happy chemicals, and happiness gives us healthiness. The sixth thing was no addictions. Addictions are terrible. The people I saw who suffered most were addicts, and they were the ones that were most likely to die. And I discovered that addictions are, in 95% of cases, are fourth stage poor mental health. Mental health problems lead to people seeking relief from street drugs if they don't get proper diagnosis and treatment, and then the street drugs are all addictive, so they become addicts. And the seventh thing, which I'm still thinking about, which I only learned about fairly recently and should have known about for 50 years, is transgenerational trauma. A person's life is often very much affected by the biggest things that happen to earlier members of his family, to his parents, his grandparents, or even his great-grandparents. Great good things or great bad things. For instance, my life was adversely affected, and I never understood it till I realized that it was adversely affected by 4 premature deaths. An uncle who died at 23 in very sad circumstances just before my 2nd birthday. A great uncle who died at about the same time, at the age of 51, from a heart attack, and a great grandmother who died at 42 of cancer, and a great uncle who died, I'm not sure what age, who came back from the war very damaged and became an alcoholic and wandered off into the bush and died. So transgenerational trauma can and often does greatly affect people's lives. Things get passed down either through the genes or through the behavior and consequences of those good or bad things. And something that I gradually became aware of when I was treating these 5,000 addicts in over 40,000 consultations was that there are great blind areas in mental health care. Mental health care could be far more helpful if it didn't have big blind areas. So what are these big blind areas? The first one I noticed was we don't look for causes. We treat people's unhappiness and we don't look for causes. And if you find and fix the causes, it's very much easier to help people to get better, and they're very much less likely to relapse. If you don't find and fix the causes, or at least understand the causes, sometimes they're not fixable, but it helps a great deal to understand them. If you understand or fix their causes, it's much easier to help them get better, and they're far less likely to relapse. And then another thing I noticed was that we treat people as individuals, as if they are loners, and nearly all mental health problems are family problems. They involve the whole family or important parts of the family, important people in the family. So people must always be treated as part of a family situation. A third blind spot is we give people a diagnosis. You've got major depression, you've got bipolar disorder, you've got panic disorder, you've got ADD, ADHD, when it's far more helpful to help them to get clear what they want and need. They want and need to be calmer, not to have panic attacks. They want and need to be happier and more cheerful, not depressed. They want and need to be able to focus and concentrate and not just be told they've got ADD. When they know, when they get, the clearer they get about what they want and need to have a happy life, the faster and better they get. Helping people to get clear what they want and need is much more important than giving them a diagnosis. Much more helpful. Another thing is the transgenerational trauma, which I've just mentioned. It's very important for people to know the really big things that happen, good or bad, to their parents and their grandparents and even their great-grandparents, because really big bad things affect members of families, or perhaps old families, and that gets handed down through the generations, either through the genes or through epigenetics, or through attitudes and habits and things like that. And the fifth big blind spot in mental health and addiction care is the failure to realize how important habits are. Habits are so important. Habits make up 60 to 65% of our life, when we include sleep, which is a very big part of our life, which is a habit. Habits are so important. And we should be teaching people how to make good habits and how to break harmful habits. And that's a very big blind spot. I've never heard of healthcare workers teaching people about habits. I had the great good fortune a few years ago to realize how important habits were, and to find to buy 3 books on habits, and one of those books on habits has helped me greatly. Let me just try to find the book so I can tell you what it is. Sorry, I just can't find the book, but it was a wonderful book about habits. So what are habits? Why are they such a big part of our life? They're a big part of our life because there is so much activity in our life, so many things going on inside us, and so many things we're doing, and they're mostly managed by our brain, and our brain is so busy that to cope with everything, it has to turn anything we do often into a habit. Everything we do and everything that happens in us starts somewhere with a trigger, mostly in our brain, but also in our gut and other parts. It starts with a trigger, and the trigger sends an electrical message along our nerves, or a chemical message, some chemistry in our blood, to a part of our body where that message triggers action. And habits are developed by doing things over and over and over again. Anything we do very often, the trigger and the messages get stronger and stronger and more automatic and more unconscious, and require less and less brain power. They just happen. Our brain focuses on the difficult things, the new things, the things that need to be changed, but the things that we do over and over and over again, the triggers and the electrical and chemical messages get stronger and stronger and stronger. And every habit that we have helped us in some way, which is why we did it over and over and over again. But some habits got us out of a tough spot, but do us damage. Like, for instance, getting drunk saves some people's lives. Drinking half a bottle of scotch helped them not to commit suicide, helped them not to physically fist fight or bash someone, helped them not to make some mistake. But alcoholism is a habit that you don't want to have. Heroin saves some people. Some people are saved from self-harm or from doing terrible things because they had a shot of heroin. But heroin's not a good habit. But unfortunately, addictive substances work by giving us great relief at first, but then they cause resistance or tolerance, so they don't work as well unless we take a bigger dose. And when we take a bigger dose to overcome the resistance or tolerance and give us relief, we get even bigger tolerance or resistance. So how do you make good habits? If you want to make a good habit, such as I've done this week, I used to do exercise on my exercise machine every day, usually for 13 minutes, sometimes for 20 minutes, sometimes for only 6 minutes, but I have a push-pull device, exercise machine that exercises my legs, my arms, and my spine all at once, and my heart. And I switched to walking, just walking, but I found that I got more and more stiff in my body, so I've gone back to using my machine every morning to get going. And it's difficult. I don't particularly like doing it, which is probably why I stopped doing it and just walked instead. But the more often I do it, the stronger the triggers and the electrical and the chemical messages involved will get. And the stronger they get, the more automatic the action gets, the easier it gets. So that's how you make habits. You do them over and over again. And to make a habit, which often we don't particularly like, you have to work out ways to facilitate doing that habit. So make it convenient, make it easy, make it in some way pleasurable, reward yourself in some way, to make doing the habit often easier. And how do you break a bad habit? Every habit originally helped us, which is why it became a habit. But as with heroin and alcohol, a lot of habits are harmful, and we need to develop better ways of achieving whatever they achieve for us, and then to break the harmful habit. So how do you break a harmful habit? You break habits by doing them less often. You slow them down, you delay them. So you, if you get the urge to do something which you don't want to do, which is a habit you want to break, you delay doing it. If you can put off smoking for 15 minutes, that weakens that habit. And if you do that for a while, you can put off doing it for half an hour, which weakens it even more. And then if you can sometimes miss doing it, that weakens it even more. So you weaken habits by delaying them and more and more and more, and then missing doing, and then stopping doing them. A lot of people would say, oh, just go cold turkey, just go cold turkey. But going cold turkey is very difficult, and most people fail. It's not a very commonly successful method. A much more successful method is to delay things and delay them longer and longer until eventually you miss them, and then you can quit them. And to do that, just as with making habits, with breaking habits, you have to think of things that will make them more difficult, that will make it easier to delay them. So, for instance, make them inconvenient. Don't have your cigarettes in your pocket. Have your cigarettes somewhere out in the backyard or in the garage, and every time you want a cigarette, you go out and you get one cigarette, and it's inconvenient. And you only smoke 3/4 of it, and you throw the last quarter away. Or you make it unpleasant. Every time you want to do something, you delay it by quick switching. You have a few different things you can do instead. And when you start to do the habit that you want to break, you just do the other things instead. So, like what? So, when you want to, say, smoke, instead you play with your cat, or instead you play with your dog, or instead you play the piano, or instead you play a game on your laptop or your phone or whatever, and you delay doing the habit that you're trying to break by quick switching to something. Or you can delay it by having a lovely taste. Over 27 years I've developed 7 tools to help people with their mental health, and I've just got the 8th tool coming. Here it is. It's a pocket dispenser that's got lovely tasting powder in it. This one's got vanilla powder in it. And when you think of doing something that a habit you want to break, instead you can whiz this dispenser out of your pocket, and it's got vanilla powder in it. So I can just drop lovely tasting vanilla powder on my tongue in seconds. And then I can think about the vanilla. I can enjoy the vanilla instead of thinking about the cigarettes or the alcohol or having a temper tantrum or whatever, or worrying about something. Just focus on the lovely taste. And when the taste starts to wear off, have another taste. It only costs you cents. It's not like chocolate. Chocolate costs you dollars, and it's fattening and it's bad for your arteries and so on. Vanilla powder is a type of healthy natural food, which has got a lovely taste. Or you could have strawberry powder or raspberry powder or blueberry powder or chocolate, chocolate with no sugar powder, or whatever powder you love. So you can delay doing your habit with lovely tastes, which you focused on the taste, and that just helps you to put the habit off. And putting the habit off, delaying the habit, weakens it. Or you can have medicine. A much earlier tool that I made about 7 or 8 years ago is a pocket powder medicine dispenser, which you can have in your pocket. And that powder, that dispenser has got powder medicine in it for whatever your problem is. If your problem is anxiety, it's got a non-addictive calming medicine in it. And as soon as you start to feel anxious or worried about something, you whiz it out and drop the powder on your tongue, and powder medicine on your tongue, sucked, not swallowed, starts to work in 5 minutes. So that very soon starts to weaken the worry, or weaken the anger, or weaken the sadness, or weaken whatever the problem is, which has become a habit. So habits are so important, and that's a blind area in mental health. One of the most important things we could do for people is to teach them how to make habits. First, get very clear how that habit is going to benefit you, and talk to other people about it and discuss it with them, how it's going to make your life better. Get very clear about how it's going to make your life better. Get very clear that you want to do it, and then make it convenient, easy, enjoyable, and soon it will be a habit. Or if it's a habit you want to break, think very carefully and talk to friends and other people about how your life will be better if you can break that habit. And when you're very sure your life will be better if you break that habit, and you're very sure you want to break that habit, then make it inconvenient, make it unpleasant, make it complicated, and delay doing it. And when you delay doing it, the habit will get weaker, and then you can delay it longer and delay and delay and delay until you can start missing it. And when you sometimes don't do it, that weakens it even more until you can quit. For instance, with tobacco smoking, we've got a powder medicine which has got 3 medicines in it called Tobacco Fix, and you can, when you think of smoking, you can drop it on your tongue and delay smoking, and you can reduce your smoking by about a quarter in somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks. And then in another 1 or 3 weeks you reduce it by another quarter, so you're down to half. And then another 3 weeks, 1 to 3 weeks, you reduce it another quarter, so you're down to a quarter. And your body has got used to doing without tobacco, without nicotine. And so after somewhere between 6 and 12 weeks, you can quit smoking and not be at risk of relapse, because you'll definitely sometimes crave and want to relapse in some situations with some people. Someone who's a smoker and wants you to smoke too, wants you to have a smoke, but you just whiz your powder out and drop it on your tongue. So you block the habit. Habits are so important. And the most important habits we develop in our very early childhood. Our feeling habits and our relationship habits, the foundations are laid in our first year of life. When we're first born and we need something, all we can do is cry. Our heart beats, we breathe, we poo, we wee, but if we need something else, we're hungry, or we're cold, or we're wet, we cry, and our mother or our caregiver does what we need. And soon, when they do what we need, they often smile at us and talk to us and maybe hum or sing, and soon we start to smile back at them. And smiling becomes one of our feeling habits. Smiling becomes a feeling habit. The more often we do it, the stronger it is. So the better, more experienced, more capable our mother is, the more we smile. The more she smiles at us and hums and sings and rocks us, the more we smile. But if she's very inexperienced, she's only 16 and you're her first baby, and she doesn't know what babies need when they cry. Half the time she doesn't know what you need, or she takes a while to work it out. Or she's too busy. I still remember a lady 50 years ago coming to me in tears because she'd had a baby every year for 4 years, and she had a baby and 3 toddlers, and she was at her wit's end. Her husband was a good man, but he had to go to work. Her mother lived in another state. She didn't have any close sisters or cousins or friends. So her babies cried more than they should because she was too busy. She was doing this, and that one needed something, and that one had to cry while she finished fixing this one. And sometimes she got grumpy. She didn't have much sleep. She was sleep deprived, and she was tired, and she was worried, and she was grumpy. So some babies didn't smile as much as they should, and they were sad, or they were lonely, or they got irritable and aggro because their needs weren't met. And so other things became habits. So in the first year of our life, the foundations of our feeling habits are laid, and it's very important that as many of them as possible are happy habits, happy feelings. And our relationship habits develop in the first year of our life. If our relationship with our mother or our caregiver is very good, because she knows what babies need. She's had another baby 3 years ago and a baby before that 3 years before that, and you're her only baby, and she's had a lot of experience, and she loves you, and she knows what you need as soon as you need it, and she gives it to you, and your relationship with her is a very happy relationship. It's a smiley, happy, friendly relationship, and that's how you react to other people. That's how you react to your 3-year-old sister who loves to play with you sometimes and make you smile and tickle you and laugh at you, and your 6-year-old, they love to smile at you and play with you and tickle you sometimes, and give you toys and things. So your relationship habits start in that first year of life. We don't remember anything until we're 2. The part of our brain that is our memory doesn't develop until we're 2. So we don't remember a lot of that. But a lot of people come out of their infancy with unhappy feeling habits and unhappy relationship habits, which they don't know why, but it was due to adverse circumstances. Right, so yeah, that's habits. So important, habits. Make a list of the habits you want to make that will make your life better, or a list of the habits that you want to break which would make your life better. One of my tools is the Mental Fix-It app, because my goal is for people to, in 10 minutes, find what their main things are and understand them and get started. And you don't do that with a consultation. With a consultation with a disturbed, unhappy people who've got lots of complications, you need an hour. And they need a doctor or a psychologist or a counsellor. But people should be able to find out on their own in minutes what their needs and wants are. So the Mental Fix-It app, which we started 18 months ago and finished about a year ago, asks 38 questions about all the main aspects of your mental health and some related aspects of social and physical health. And each question has 3 possible answers, and you just tap your answer, one of the 3 answers that's nearest for you. So you can whip your phone out, find the App Store icon or the Google Play icon, and tap it, and in 10 seconds download the free Mental Fix-It app. And then you just tap the app, and it asks you a question. the question comes up, and you've got 3 possible answers, and you tap your answer, and then you tap again, and the next question comes up, and you can go through those 38 questions, or you could go through those 38 questions in 10 minutes. Tap, 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 and as you tap your choice of answers to the last question, a full report, the app would give you a full report on the screen of what your problems were and what the solutions were. And I thought 10 minutes was great, much better than an hour of answering questions and going all around the place and missing some, forgetting to ask some things. But a lot of people thought 10 minutes was too long. So then we just took the 19 most important questions and reduced the app to the Mental Fix app to 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, in a few seconds, if you had an iPhone, you find the App Store. If you've got an Android, you find the Google Play. You tap the icon, and in a few seconds you download the free Mental Fix It app, and in 5 minutes you can tap your choice of answers and get an instant report. And the instant report tells you the 4 things you most need. One of our other tools is 100, just about 100 under-a-minute videos that cover every aspect of mental health and addiction and a few related things. They explain each thing. So if you've got an anxiety problem, there's an under-a-minute video that explains anxiety. If you've got ADD, there's an under... So, but different people have different problems, and we have nearly 100 under-a-minute videos because there are nearly 100 different subjects, and the app instant report tells you which 6 videos you can watch immediately on your phone that will explain your 6 main problems, biggest problems, and what caused them, and why you still have them, and how to fix them. So the goal is, in 10 minutes, download the app, in 2 minutes do the app, and in a minute read the instant report. In 6 minutes watch the 6 most helpful videos. So I made other tools, as mentioned, 7 other tools, and the 8th one, the fruit powder taste, to help you make and break habits. The tools were almost 100 under-a-minute videos that cover every mental health thing, which are up on all the main platforms. 2 websites, mentalhealthvideos.a2z.com, which has got all the videos and lots of other information on it, but it's long, and a lot of people wanted a short website, so we've also got the SmileFixit.com website, the SmileFixit.com website, which has got everything you need on one page, and you just tap whichever thing is of interest to you, and you then get that particular matter in more detail. So videos, the Mental Fix It app, websites, and then live streaming, which is what we're doing now. Live streaming is something that a lot of people prefer. They just love to watch someone talking live. So I now do that usually 4 times a week on Wednesday, Friday and Saturday evening at 7 p.m. Perth time and 9 a.m. Sunday Perth time, which is 9 p.m. Sydney and Melbourne time, and unfortunately in the Northern Hemisphere it's 7 a.m. New York time and 4 a.m. Los Angeles time. So that's why I do the Sunday morning session, because it's at a better time for people in the Northern Hemisphere, and we get a lot of people from the Northern Hemisphere watching, and most people live in the Northern Hemisphere. So the fourth tool is live streaming. And you can, I can't talk to you directly because I don't know how to do that. Technology is beyond me and because I'm too busy, but you can send me your comments, questions and criticisms through the platform you use or through our email address, which is healthestuff@gmail.com, healthestuff@gmail.com. And if you can't remember, it's spelled how it sounds, but if you can't remember that, you'll find it at smilefixit.com, smilefixit.com. And the fifth tool is powder medicines. And why powder medicines? Powder medicines for a number of reasons. Firstly, tablets and capsules, when you swallow them, have to go right down your gut and take half an hour to an hour to start to be absorbed and start to go to where they're needed and start to help you. Half an hour to an hour, and 1 to 2 hours to become strongly helpful. And that's just too slow for many mental health and addiction situations, where you want the help as fast as possible. As soon as the problem starts, as soon as you start to crave heroin or start to crave ice or start to crave alcohol or start to have a panic attack or start to get social phobia, you want the medicine to work very fast. And I found that powder medicine dropped on your tongue and sucked, not swallowed, starts to work in 5 minutes. Your tongue is pink or red because the blood vessels in it are so close to the surface. And if you sprinkle powder medicine, thousands of tiny grains of powder medicine on your tongue and suck it, it gets into those very superficial close blood vessels in 5 minutes and starts to help you. And in 10 to 15 minutes it's helping you strongly, which helps to delay and weaken craving and mental health suffering with the right particular powder medicine. And none of them are addictive. I never recommend anything addictive. Well, that's not quite true, but 25 years ago, when I was trying to find a non-addictive medicine for anxious people, because all the medicines for worry, anxiety and for sleep were addictive. The barbiturates, the benzodiazepines, Ambien, Stilnox, all addictive. I saw people taking 20, 30 or 40 Valium a day, or lots of Mogadons at night, or lots of Seropax or Xanax, or up to 17 Ambien or Stilnox. And eventually I found a book called The End of My Addiction. The End of My Addiction, written by Professor Olivier Amerson. Professor Olivier Amerson was a New York professor of cardiology, originally from France, where he was a famous cardiologist. but he had a terrible anxiety problem, and that drove him to alcohol, and he eventually had such a bad alcohol problem that he had to stop practicing. And he'd been to the 3 best rehabs in the US and had every possible treatment for alcohol use disorder, and every time relapse within a day or 2 or 3, so had to stop practicing as a doctor. And then a woman doctor in New York had a patient who was a paraplegic, and paraplegics get awful muscle spasms, and the best treatment for muscle spasms was baclofen. And baclofen is 100 years old. It was a medicine originally for epilepsy, and then they got better medicines for epilepsy, but baclofen also calmed people and also stopped muscle spasms, and it was the best medicine for muscle spasms. So this New York doctor gave her paraplegic patient baclofen for his muscle spasms, and he had a cocaine addiction which he hadn't been able to quit. And when he started to take baclofen for his muscle spasms, he just stopped his cocaine. Baclofen stopped his craving for cocaine and broke his addiction. So that got written up in the New York newspapers, and Professor Olivier Amerson, with his alcohol problem, read this and thought, well, it's worth a try. He'd done everything else and nothing had worked. And when he took large doses of baclofen, it just fixed his alcohol problem completely and his anxiety problem. And he was able to quit alcohol completely. Even better than that, he could have one alcohol drink in a social situation and stop. Most people who've been alcoholics who quit alcohol can't have one drink. If they have one drink, they're gone. But Professor Amerson was able to have one drink, and baclofen controlled his alcohol. So he wrote a book, The End of My Addiction, about this his problem and the help that baclofen was. And when I read that book, I realized baclofen was what my heroin patients needed, because at the time we had a great epidemic of heroin in Perth, and in 1 year I got 700 new heroin patients. I had old heroin patients I was still treating, but I got 700 new ones, and baclofen was such a wonderful help for them, for their anxiety and their sleep and their craving for drugs. But 2 of my patients took too much baclofen. I can't remember one, but one I remember clearly was an Asian woman who was a heroin addict, who had 2 children, and her husband had just died from a heroin overdose, and she was so anxious and she couldn't sleep, and she needed to get off heroin so she could look after her children, and so she wasn't broke all the time, so it didn't take all her money. So I gave her baclofen, and it worked wonderfully for her, but she needed more and more, and gradually got up to 9 baclofen a day. And when I went into the literature carefully, it was apparent that baclofen is mildly addictive for some people. So I mixed baclofen with mirtazapine and microdose naltrexone, 3 milligrams of baclofen, which calms, relaxes and helps sleep and stops craving for alcohol and heroin, or reduces craving for alcohol, heroin, cocaine. and mirtazapine, which is a very calming, relaxing antidepressant, 2 milligrams, and 3/4 of a milligram microdose of naltrexone. And naltrexone boosts your feel-good endorphins, the chemistry in your brain that helps to stop pain and suffering. And microdose naltrexone also stops craving for alcohol, heroin, and addictive painkillers. So that combination, 3 to 2 to 3/4 of mirtazapine, of baclofen, mirtazapine and microdose naltrexone was not addictive. Nobody got addicted to it, and it helped them so much. So powder medicines not only worked much faster, start to work if you suck them and absorb them through your tongue in 5 minutes, and work strongly in 5 to 10 minutes. They're also very easily mixed, combined, to deal with several problems at once, because people with serious mental health problems never only just have one problem. If they've got serious anxiety, they've got other problems. If they've got serious depression, they'll have anxiety and insomnia. If they've got ADD, 1/4 of them will probably become bipolar, and most of them will have anxiety and depression. So nearly all people who have serious enough mental health problems to come to a doctor have got 2 or 3 or even 4 mental health disorders, and a lot of them have got addiction craving. So being able to mix 2 or 3 or 4 medicines together help them wonderfully. Another advantage of powder. So powder is much faster, and you can easily deal with several things at once. I used to prescribe for people with multiple problems multiple tablets or capsules, but that cost them too much. Each one was a separate prescription, which cost, and they got them mixed up. With powder, the doses weren't perfect, but they were getting the right medicines. Perhaps a bit too much or not enough for them of one, but they were getting all the medicines they needed for their mental health cravings and their addiction cravings. And it was fast, and they got multiple reliefs. And they also got the best dose for them. The dose of medicine that you need varies very much on your weight. It's totally different if you're 50 or 75 or 100 or 140 kilos. You need a different amount according to your weight, and it's hard to get exactly the right amount with tablets or capsules. Okay, they make the tablets and capsules sometimes in 2 or 3 different strengths, and you can break the tablets in halves, and some you can break in quarters, but it's still hard to get exactly the right amount. Hard to know what your best amount is and to then get it. With the powders, the first powder we give people is very mild, and they take 1 dose at a time, then 2 doses, then 3 doses, then 4 doses, until they find the number of doses that gives them the best results with the least side effects, that gives them the best effects with the least ill effects. And when they come back and tell us, yes, what's best for me, when they come back and tell me, yes, what's best for me is 3 doses or 4 doses or 5 doses, we know how much medicine's in that, and we can give them a dispenser with the powder in it that's got their right dose. And powder is cheaper. Nearly all medicines start as powder, bulk powder. Bulk powder, once it's out of patent, is pretty cheap. But turning it into tablets or capsules is a whole industry in itself. Getting exactly the right amount of the medicine in each tablet or each capsule, or within 5% of the right amount, and tablets that don't crumble and that you can break, and getting it all right it's a whole industry. So turning bulk powder into tablets or capsules doubles the cost. And people look at our dispensers and they think, oh, they look a bit expensive, but they're not. They cost, the retail cost is $5, and the retail cost for our fruit powder dispensers will be $5, and the wholesale cost is quite a lot less if they're bought in bulk. So my tools were under-a-minute videos, the Mental Fix It app, 2 websites, mentalhealthvideos.com and smilefixit.com, live streaming, powder medicines and pocket powder medicines dispensers. And the 7th tool was a meditation aid, a heartbeat meditation aid. Meditation is so helpful for people with mental health conditions and for people with addictions. But it's a habit. Meditation is a habit. And it's a habit that gives you a rest or a break from all your problems. Because what you do is you focus on your breathing, or you focus on a word, and when you focus on that, you stop thinking about all your problems, and that helps you to relax and feel calmer. But it's hard to do if your problems are very pressing and you're very agitated. You focus for a moment and then you're back with your problems. So the people who would be helped most by meditation often can't start to learn to meditate because your breathing or a word are not attention grabbing enough. But I've been listening to people's hearts for 50 years with stethoscopes, and your heart, listen to this, is loud and strong and quite attention grabbing. So I cut a stethoscope short and made it into a heartbeat meditation aid. This is the listening part. You put the listening part down under your clothes, right over your heart, and you listen to your heart, and you focus on your heart beating, your loud, clear, interesting heart beating, and stop thinking about all your problems. And when your mind wanders, you quickly bring it back to your heartbeat, and you keep repeating that, and after a month or 2 you can meditate quite well with your heartbeat meditation aid, and soon you can then start to meditate focusing on your breathing, which is the best thing in the end to focus on, is your breathing. Because breathing steadily and calmly is very helpful for your feelings, and you've got it with it wherever you are, anytime, anywhere. If you get a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you can meditate. Just before you go to sleep, notice your breathing. Just before you go to sleep, you notice your breathing gets very steady, very even, in, out, and then you're off to sleep. Because sleeping is, in a way, a form of meditation, and it's a habit. So there we are. Blind spots. Think about the blind spots. Look for causes. Realize that people aren't isolated. They're all part of two family streams, their mother's family stream and their father's family stream. Focus on what you want and what you need more than on your diagnosis. Okay, it's helpful to have a diagnosis, but if you've got ADD, it's more important to know that what you want to do is to be able to focus and concentrate and not be impulsive and make good decisions and not be hyperactive and be calm. It's important to know what you want and need, and to realize that transgenerational trauma is what is making a lot of people's lives really bad. Their life is bad because a parent or a grandparent or a great-grandparent had something terrible happen to them or did something terrible, which has come down through the generations, through epigenetics and through the environment, the attitudes, the behaviors, the family culture. So don't be blind to transgenerational trauma. And habits is a blind spot. Don't be blind to how important habits are. And you make habits by doing things over and over and over again, and you do them over and over again by making them convenient, easy, quick, simple, enjoyable. And you break habits by being very sure that your life will be better if you break that habit, and talking about it to other people. And when you're very sure, you start to delay your habits, which weakens them, and when they're weak, then you can delay them and even longer, and you delay them by making them inconvenient or slow or unpleasant, or with lovely tastes that you focus on and concentrate on, or with medicines that delay the problem. Well, I think that's enough for today. I wish you well. Please send me your comments, questions and criticisms, or email them to us. Send them on the platform you watch the live streaming on, or email them to us at healthystuff@gmail.com, healthystuff@gmail.com, which is spelt the way it sounds, but you can also find it on smilefixit.com, smilefixit.com.